What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the Odd Chopper channel, coming to you with a championship round edition of NFL Lindy's Leans, Lights, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me, and this video goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize winner. Great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. The wild card weekend was an absolute smash, 7-2. Ended up up many units. Last week I got blanked. Completely blanked. Did not win a bet in the Discord, did not win a bet on this video. It was not an enjoyable experience for the NFL streets. In the NBA, it's been red hot for almost a month and a half here, just been riding an epic heater. And so, you know, I don't really even know what to say. I didn't have a great performance. I really don't think I had a great read on those games, but worked really hard this week to get back on track here in the NFL streets. Plus, I want to turn a profit here in the playoffs, down around half a unit now overall as I updated my sheet here for the 2 weeks, which is sad when you hit a lock, that is a unit play, on a money line that is nearly plus 300, the Green Bay Packers. But you know what? We continue on our merry way. All we can do is look forward and try to do better this week. If you have never seen any of my Lindy's for 2-game slates in the NBA streets, MLB streets during the playoffs, here's how I kind of do things. I go lean, I go like, I go lock, just like the regular videos, except for I do them for each specific game. Now, a lock, that does not necessarily make it the 1-unit play. It might be on a 4-game slate or on a 15-game regular slate you'd have for the NFL. This is simply saying it's my favorite play from the entire game. So a little bit of a differentiation, although one of these is definitely a 1-unit play. I will tell you exactly which one that is. It's from Detroit and San Francisco. So when we get to that one, you can rest assured that that's a full unit play. Although I thought about making it a full unit there on the lock that I had from the Baltimore game as well. But going to be kind of holding back because that game, it looks brutal to me. Might be some unders to be looking at. We also have BetMGM to look at. We'll talk about them at the midway point. But friends, producer Jacob's on hand. He's ready to ride. He's ready to rock. He's ready for me to redeem myself after whatever the hell happened last week. I have no jokes. Producer Jacob, let's get to the picks. The road to redemption begins here. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, 4-point dogs. Patrick Mahomes. Heard those are interesting things. What is he now? 8-1-1 against the spread on the road in these spots? Like, what in the world is a dog? Like, it's a ridiculous run that he's been on here as a dog in these, well, not just playoffs, just overall. He's never a dog in spots like this, but going to be a second road playoff game. Going to be an interesting thing to go watch here as he takes on Lamar Jackson and company. And Lamar Jackson and company have been just firing on all cylinders. But gotta say, when we start breaking down this game specifically, we know the zone defense that you're going to get from the Baltimore Ravens. They've just been so good. They've been the best defense in the NFL. I would actually argue, if I could say English, that'd be helpful. Actually argue that the Kansas City Chiefs are the second best defense in the NFL. Now, I thought just at the top of my head, well, San Francisco, they acquired Chase Young, and you go through some of the breakdowns of them, thought that maybe they would fall into that category, but no. The more I looked into the numbers, the more I'm just impressed by what Kansas City's done this entire season. Opponent points per game, second, only 17.1 that they've given up per game. Second to the Baltimore Ravens because, of course, 292.5 total yards per game. That is third best in the NFL. And then you're talking yards per play, fourth, just 4.7 yards per play over the course of the entire season. That right from the get-go has me thinking that we should be looking at some unders throughout this entire game because we know what Baltimore's defense brings to the table. And yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. We've seen these kind of spots before where it's him, Travis Kelce, and they just go for uber yardage. But I just don't see it here in this spot. I think this is a pretty efficient spread. I think the total might be the one thing we dabble with here, but starting it off here in the lean category, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson under 210.5 yards. Now, you're getting right at even money. That is the prevailing number. DraftKings Sportsbook has the best available number for this, but I haven't yet pulled the trigger on it, and here's why. Lamar Jackson, if they are going to just try to QB spy him, run around the field, and do the things that Kansas City's defense kind of has the personnel to be able to do, you might not be, I mean, it could be just an interesting spot where Lamar Jackson, with Mark Andrews back, who's going to be on a pitch count, gets a little bit more done than we expect. Now, Isaiah Likely has performed awesome. I doubt they go to a ton of 12 personnel, just putting both of them on the field here in these kind of spots. Charlie Kohler, the backup, the third string tight end, that would be former of my Iowa State Cyclones. He'll be a guy that probably just doesn't even see the field in these spots except for blocking situations, although not really his calling card coming up in college. Lamar Jackson, though, 210.5 passing yards. It's already a pretty low number, I understand, but I'm just a little bit worried. I see the prevailing numbers just a little bit north, like 62.5, 63.5 for rushing yards for Lamar Jackson. I think he probably gets just enough done here to make it a competitive spot. Well, I mean, they're favored by 4. It's, of course, going to be a competitive spot, but I'm just feeling a little bit queasy about something that's projecting out well with the market-based approach, but is not necessarily going to be on my card. So this is on the outside looking in, just because I can talk myself into Baltimore's offense being a little bit more efficient. Although, again, Kansas City's defense brings it all to the table. Now, we get to the talked about it before. I don't have a play on this game in terms of Kansas City or Baltimore. If you made me decide, well, I'm not even going to throw it out there because I think it's perfectly efficient. But this isn't. 45 is the total. These are potentially 2 of the top 3, if not the top 2 defenses in the NFL. If you just throw out week 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs going up against Detroit, this is a completely different complexion that we have about this defense. It just kind of started off on a weird note. Travis Kelce was out for that week 1 game. And of course, the big thing, you just didn't have any of the big boppers there. It just was such a weird spot where you get Jones back into the mix here. Chris Jones on the defensive interior. He is a difference maker. He can get after the quarterback. He can stuff the run. He can do so many different things for this defense. And I just think that it's a different situation here in playoff football. So under 45, yeah, a game with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, I'm actually going to be betting the under ever so slightly. Nothing crazy here. But yeah, wanted to have something in there in terms of totals. We'll get to the next game. I'm going to talk through a couple of things there, but totals and I think everything's pretty efficient outside of this one. So under 45, there we go, are my friends. But I'm actually going to be going to a lock here with the help of Odd Chopper. As we pull up Odd Chopper here, my friends, there's one play that stands out above all the rest here. Check it all out here. Justice Hill, total receiving yards. As you break down his profile here, we know that, Harbaugh likes to bring a bunch of running backs and go through an entire rotation of these guys constantly. But last week, you saw Gus Edwards on the field for just 34% of snaps. Justice Hill out there for 57% of the snaps. That's a large snap alignment. And in those 57 snaps, my friends, you're looking at Justice Hill running a route on 66% of Lamar Jackson's dropbacks. It's a large number here the last 2 weeks, 59% overall. So I'm looking at Justice Hill here. You have 12.5 over at FanDuel.com, minus 110. That is a 30-cent difference than what we're looking at Sharp Sportsbooks, and you're getting an extra yard off. You're getting a yard discount. So with a market-based approach, this has been up here for now 6 hours. It has true odds that we've calculated at minus 125. You're getting a 15-cent discount and a yard discount to make this play at FanDuel.com. Now, this is only going to be a half-unit play for me because obviously bet size. We're looking at what the size of your bankroll is, and you're looking at kind of adjusting yourself accordingly based on how much your bankroll is and what you should be betting specifically. For me, this is going to fall into the the half-unit category. But again, having this in your portfolio, a very important part of being profitable in these streets. So again, it's not your typical lock, because this is not a full unit play for me, but it's my favorite bet as of right now, and that is truly with the help of Odd Chopper. You can sign up for that using promo code Lindy down at the video description box below, 20% off. That is $12 for your first week, $42 if you want to check it out for a full month. You'll also get the Discord, everything else that we have to offer there. So there we are. That does it for the first game. Justice Hill, over 12.5 receiving yards, the best play from it, under 45. The only play I have on a total or a spread as of right now entering Sunday. Let's talk about MGM and get to that last game, which I am far more intrigued to bet. Bet $5, get $158 in bonus bets right now, my friends. Sign up at the video description box below or with that QR code directly in front of your screen. Again, you want to get 3 50-50? Well, it's a $50, $50, and a $58 bonus bet just by signing up at the link below, depositing $10 or more, and betting $5 on anything I talked about here or anything else that your heart desires. So again, 3 massive bonus bets there, 50, 50, 58, just by checking out BetMGM. Pretty awesome deal. We just talked about FanDuel. That had the best line in one spot. Sometimes it might be at DraftKings. Sometimes it might be at BetMGM. I don't care where it is. Just bet the best line every single time and use that to help inform your play. So it's only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the pick. Well, last game of the game. Let's get to it, my friends. The Detroit Lions are back in the NFC Championship game. What a time to be alive, my NFC North rivals. Well, no, it's been the Packers, it's been the Bears at times, but never thought of the Detroit Lions would have a better football team than my Minnesota Vikings. Making their way there. Minnesota, last time they played in the NFC Championship game, they lost by 1 million to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, this is going to be a very difficult spot on the road here in San Francisco. Not that good football teams can't go into San Francisco and demolish them. We saw Baltimore do exactly that. Now, is Detroit Baltimore? Absolutely not. From a defensive perspective, lots of pieces missing on the Detroit side, specifically in that secondary that we constantly talk about. And I'm not saying missing is in their hurt. I'm saying missing is they don't have that personnel. Now, San Francisco, we know what they bring to the table. They bring an outrageous offense, outrageous skill position players, and we are still sitting, waiting, wishing that Deebo Samuel ends up suiting up here on Sunday, although it's looking really, really dicey. And if he does play, he's probably going to be on some sort of a pitch count, you would expect, just because this is a really strange type situation. Now, he's had shoulder injuries before. He's had hamstring injuries before. But again, shoulder, it's just going to be a lot of a pain tolerance thing for him. And we'll see what he can do, what he is capable of. I'm going towards him playing here right now. He's going to be limited in practice again here on Friday. It looks like, again, they haven't started practice as I'm recording this Friday morning, but I feel as though he's going to suit up. It's just a question of like, what are we going to get out of him? And does this become a funnel for Brandon Ayuk, for George Kittle, for guys of that nature? We'll talk about it. But we begin in the lean category, my friends. I'm looking at Brock Purdy, somebody that I would say that my Iowa State guy, he inspires controversy, if you will, on twitter.com, on x.com, whatever you want to call it. Some people love him. Some people hate him. I find him to be very, very good at what he's supposed to be. He's not Alex Smith in terms of game managing, but he's definitely kind of out of that ilk. He can add a little bit of rushing if he needs to at times. He had 6 attempts for just 14 yards last time, but saying that if it needs to happen, we saw it against Cincinnati, 6 rushes for 57 yards. He has that capability from time to time, but he's an upper level of game manager where he can actually make some deeper sideline throws. He can do some of those things that you're not necessarily asking an Alex Smith back in the day to do with the Kansas City Chiefs or teams of that nature, this 49ers team. But as I look at Detroit here, this is definitely a secondary that is gettable. This is definitely a pass rush that needs to get home and needs to contain the run here against Christian McCaffrey in order to be successful here on Sunday, because I do think their offense is very much equipped not to go out and trounce San Francisco, but this is a 51.5 total for a damn reason, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of that dude. Sam Laporta going to be another week healthier here after the knee injury that happened in week 18. Kind of, we can argue about that as much as we want, Dan Campbell, but he obviously came back, played awesome last week there after being very, very limited in that spot before it. So yeah, I'm feeling much better here about Sam Laporta and his workload, considering 9 catches, 11 targets last week. Good to see him on the field a bunch for the the Iowa Hawkeye, my rivals. A lot of rivalry talk here in this one, but let's begin in the lean category here. Brock Purdy, 274.5 passing yards, and then San Francisco -7. If you had to bet anything in terms of a spread or back a team, I think San Francisco 7. There's some 7.5s around the industry. Again, market-based approach is really just finding the best line and then doing a good job of getting it at the best possible number, depending on what books you have available in your state. Right now, you have -110, San Francisco -7, as opposed to there's some -115, 7.5s. Wouldn't want that. Again, I doubt this gets bet inside of this key number here. It opened at 7. It stayed there for the most part because, again, very efficient here. It's so difficult for me to see anything that I want to do with the Baltimore and Kansas City game. So I wanted to at least throw it in there for you. But then Brock Purdy, over 274.5 passing yards. I don't trust this secondary in any way, shape, or form. I don't trust I don't trust Detroit to be able to stop anything that San Francisco wants to do offensively. It's just going to be a question of how much can Detroit get done offensively on the other side. And again, 51.5 for a total. We're not going to be digging into that. That's kind of what we're expecting there. But I will say part of the reason I don't want to be betting the San Francisco -7 is I'm in love with one specific play here, because I think some people across the industry talk on Twitter, again, are overreacting to snap counts from Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery last week. Let me explain. David Montgomery saw the lion's share of snaps last week. You saw, again, and we're talking about the Lions, so we might as well talk about lion's share. That's not even funny. I quit. Anywho, we're going to continue on. We're looking at a Detroit Lions team that had David Montgomery out there, another Iowa State guy, for 55% of the snaps. The week before that, David Montgomery, 55% of snaps. So Jahmyr Gibbs, 37 and 33% over the last 2 weeks. They've had pretty positive game scripts in both of those spots. Now, Detroit, they want to establish the run. Dan Campbell wants to play smash mouth football and go for it, run it on 3rd and 4 at the 5, and then go for it on, because he's going for it on 4th down almost all the time in those spots. But I do think that the tide is going to flip here, considering the game script that is projected. You're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs on the field just as much, if not more, than David Montgomery in this spot, so long as it plays to the script of San Francisco -7. And as such, I think there is a massive disparity across the marketplace that needs to be capitalized on with Jahmyr Gibbs' anytime touchdown. This was the first play that I made the entire week. And I do think, let me just actually double check what the current lines are for it, because when I was able to get this earlier in the week, it was really the only thing that I was kind of interested in from the game, just relative to what everybody was expecting the workload to be. It was at plus 185. It's sitting at plus 175 for a rushing touchdown. Don't be betting that. Bet the anytime touchdown here. Plus 145 at FanDuel. That is more than okay, considering plus 105, plus 110. That is where Sharp Sportsbook currently have this. So head to FanDuel.com, get yourself some plus money. But Jahmyr Gibbs is your passing down back. He is your come from behind back. He is your electric, we need to make plays back. And I think he plays a lot more than just 37 and 33% of the snaps that we saw the last 2 weeks, so long as San Francisco is up or just continuing to control this football game like projected. So Jahmyr Gibbs, anytime touchdown, welcome to the party, my friends. Didn't see that one coming. But it was, again, the first play that I made here on the week, and I think it is a lovely, lovely one to have in your portfolio, and it's keeping me away from that San Francisco -7, which is probably for the best. But there's not a lot that can keep me away from this play, friends. We're talking a limited George Kittle. We're talking Brandon Ayuk that teams have really, really had to scheme for as he has ascended up the pecking order of wide receivers in the NFL. In fact, Brandon Ayuk, second in PFF rating out of every wide receiver in the NFL this season. Now, Justin Jefferson missed a lot of time. Jamar Chase wasn't playing with Joe Burrow the entire year and was playing with some semblance of a crippled Joe Burrow for a majority of that season. Still second in the entire NFL, Brandon Ayuk, in terms of everything that he's doing, basically encapsulating it all and putting it into a portfolio. Detroit is going to have to do a lot to try to slow him down, and I want to pull the trigger on it. And that's where there's the correlation of 274.5 passing yards for Brock Purdy that I'm thinking about adding to some of these plays, maybe just having a single game parlay with him and George Kittle. But the priority for me, friends, there's also receptions, 4.5 receptions for George Kittle. You can get a plus money. We're going to be going to 61.5 receiving yards, though. I saw this and I kind of went, I'm ready to rock with this one. We're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver during the regular season. We're talking about a guy that continually gets targeted by Brock Purdy in these kind of situations. Deebo Samuel limited here, gets off the field, becomes a little bit of a funnel. And George Kittle, obviously, he doesn't get the entire secondary. He's going to be matched up on some linebackers from time to time here in the middle of the field. But I do not trust Barnes and Campbell and Anzalone to be the guys to stop him out there. It's going to be free reign for George Kittle in the middle of the field. And I think Deebo Samuel, anything they can add for him being on the field, maybe not a decoy of sorts, because you're going to give the ball to You're going to give the ball to Deebo Samuel if he is active and on the field and can be on a snap count of some kind. But George Kittle, give me all of that you got in a bag of potato chips. My favorite play of the entire weekend, over 61.5 receiving yards. God, let's hit that one, please. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks in the NFL streets. Hit that like button down below. Let me know your favorite play that exists here on the board for this incredible AFC and NFC championship weekend we have before us. And it'll be the Super Bowl. You'll have to wait 2 weeks. We'll have the last NFL Lindy's here of the entire season. God forbid they make me do a Pro Bowl one. I'm not doing a Pro Bowl one. Their name is Chastity. She is, you know what I'm saying. Anywho, thank you, producer Jacob. Good stuff. Check out BetMGM, friends. Check out OddsShopper down below. Tons of great stuff here in the streets. Let's get the heck up out of here. Let's win some money here, which I didn't do for you last week in the NFL streets. That's for sure. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets on Sunday.